Gee, the lack of humility before nature that's being displayed here staggers me.
Well, thank you, Dr. Malcolm, but I think things are a little bit different than you and I had feared.
Yeah, I know. They're a lot worse.
Now, wait a second. Now, we haven't even seen the part where they feel...
Don't let him talk. There's no reason. No, I want to hear every viewpoint. I really do.
Yeah, don't you see the danger, John, inherent in what you're doing here?
This is Plausibly Live.
When I was in the 5th grade, Mr. Dodge's science class, he gave us an assignment one day to dream up anything we wanted to build. What do you want to build? What do you want to do? My good friend and I came up with this idea of building a submarine. We were going to build a submarine. We're going to take it out to Rotella Lake in Denver. We were going to dive beneath the surface of Rotella Lake. We had, as I remember, a pretty good plan for this. Mr. Dodge took the plans. He didn't say, people are crazy, it'll never work, can't do that. He gave us a list of questions about, well, what are you going to do about this? How are you going to handle that? And we had to come up with answers, and eventually we did. And I actually still to this day believe that if we had the skills to actually do it back then, we probably could have built it. You know, Lake Rotella was all of 7 feet deep, so I don't think it would have been a huge problem, but there you go. That was my first introduction to submarining and my first step on a very long path that led to my dolphins, that led to my qualification as United States Navy submariner. So I have watched with some interest over the past few days as the whole OceanGate thing has unraveled. I have on my desk here several business cards from folks at OceanGate. The reason I have those is because I actually met them in 2019 at a STEM event over at the Keyport Naval Museum, where we had a pretty good discussion about things, and then later we had them do a video presentation for the sub-vets, all of whom were pretty impressed by this whole thing. It's fascinated. One of the things they told me that day was, you know, if you come over and volunteer, help, you know, working, cleaning, whatever, after so many hours, you can get a free ride on one of these things, which I thought was pretty fascinating. A lot of what they were doing at the time was scientific research, specifically about sharks here in Puget Sound. No, that's going to attract my interest. I took a look at the thing, and I said, I can't. Number one, it's a 3-hour trip to get over here to do the volunteering stuff each way. But number two, there's literally no way I can get into this thing. The hatches are very small, and at the time I was pushing 300. But even then, even if I could have gotten into it, there was no way I could have sat in it. My knee just won't bend that way, and it just wasn't going to work. So I politely declined, but I kept watching what was going on. Now they've built this submarine that they took to the Titanic. As I understand things, this is the 3rd trip that they've made to Titanic. I'm a little confused by that, but it appears that this was the 3rd trip that they made. And of course, this has gone tragically bad. That's the word. And what we know versus what we don't know are a couple of different things. What we know is that there was a lot of heavy weather. Weather broke. The way that they launched this particular submersible, is not weather dependent because they actually launch it underwater, which makes sense, and they're able to handle heavy weather better than things like the Alvin or some of the other famous submersibles are. But they got a break in the weather. It was enough time to go down and get back before the weather changed. And theoretically, unnecessary risks are not part of the equation. Either you have sufficient time to go or you don't. We're told that the dive commenced and that some 2 hours later, contact was lost. I was a little surprised in doing some technical research yesterday that Their dive time is about 2 hours to the Titanic, 12,000 feet. It's 6,000 feet an hour. That makes me nervous. But they were somewhere probably close to the bottom when contact was lost, which apparently is not an unusual thing for them. They tend to lose contact, that's a problem. Anyway, we haven't heard anything since. There are some ideas here. Did they lose power, sink to the bottom? Doesn't make sense because the Titan has systems to automatically surface it in the loss of power. Are they on the surface? The weather in the area right now makes a surface search extraordinarily difficult. It's strange to think about, but even though this thing is the size of a school bus, the smallest bus, it's very difficult to spot on the surface because it doesn't pop out of the water and float on top of the water with brilliant white paint. It sits right at the surface. What if it capsized? Nobody knows. The thing that fits the situation to my thinking, though, is, of course, that things that we have learned subsequent to this is that she probably was not design rated to go to the Titanic. The Titanic sits about 12,400 feet deep, 4,000 meters. She was probably rated for 1,300 meters, although that's debatable. The thing that fits the situation the most is, of course, a rapid implosion. She's made out of carbon fiber. Carbon fiber tends to shatter under stress. I don't know why you would do that, but it did. If the thing suddenly imploded, it would make some noise. Wouldn't that have been heard? Maybe, maybe not. It's not that big. It's not going to make that big of a noise, although it's certainly possible. But you would have to be listening to it. Plus, the weather was difficult around there. The deep water channels may be available. They may not. It's not as big as a U.S. Navy submarine. It's not going to make the same noise. We come back to the construction of the vessel being a pointed finger. It's carbon fiber construction. Possibly a good idea. It's very strong. But 4,000 meters down, 3,000 meters down, hell, 1,000 meters down, a lot of pressure. You sit here and you run the numbers, and this is one of the first numbers I was taught in sub school, 44 pounds of pressure per 100 feet. And that builds over time. So you go to 200 feet, it's 88 pounds of pressure. Where you're sitting right now, unless you're in the Rocky Mountains or something like that, the sea level pressure is 14.5 pounds of pressure per square inch, roughly. 14.7, okay. I want to get pedantic. And you tolerate that quite well. Double that and see what happens to you. During submarine school, we were put in pressure chambers to simulate being at 44 pounds of pressure, 100 feet depth. And it was the day we lost about half of our class because people couldn't handle that. They couldn't pressurize their ears. They couldn't deal with things. It was remarkable to me. This is one of those apocryphal stories that I tell because there was no actual science done, but the pressure on my eyeballs, because I don't really have an astigmatism or didn't then, pushed my eye lens back in. And I actually have 20/20 vision at 100 feet. It was kind of cool. In fact, we did it again just to make sure, but they didn't actually get a doctor to test. Would have been cool. The bottom line is that while this carbon fiber hull may be great for 100 feet, 12,400 feet, run the math. I mean, I'm sitting here in front of my computer. I guess I could do that for you, but it's not something that I'm good at. I don't like to do math on the fly. 12,400 divided by 100 is 224 times 44 pounds, 5,456 pounds of pressure per square inch on your body, on the hull. It's not designed for that. Boom. Remember that the Thresher imploded somewhere around 2,000 feet. So we're talking another 10,000 feet on top of that. Yes, there are submersibles built to take that, but this wasn't one of them. I hate to say it. And of course, now what we're learning about the Titan is that while she might be rather innovative and creative, and by the way, stop emailing me about the Xbox controller. It doesn't matter what you use to control it. It really doesn't, as long as it works and as long as it has redundant backup systems. That's the real question. What did they have to back it up? The questions this morning are that front end, as you're looking at it, where you have a titanium ring with the window in it. And this window, by the by, is how they get in and out of there. And the window, we're learning this morning, is only rated to 1,300 meters. But it seems like they've taken her down there multiple times. I could not have gone in there. Not because I'm claustrophobic, I'm not, but because I simply can't bend my knees like that, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. Going down to the Titanic, as I said, 4,000 meters down, is a dangerous task, not something you do on a whim, and yet here we have people doing it, and it's bizarre to me. I don't want to mock people. That's not what I'm trying to do. But if I had a spare $250,000, I sure as hell wouldn't spend it on a ride to the Titanic, unless I just had more money than God and nothing else to do with it. But surely there's charity somewhere or something that could have used that money. I'm not judging. I mean, I'm saying what I would do. I would not pay $250,000 to ride in a submersible, especially one that was experimental. That's not going to happen. Maybe Alvin. But again, I'm back to the same problem as I can't bend my knees. We're learning now that there was a lot more to this whole thing, that OceanGate was sued back in 2018 over the safety, the design of this thing, which was problematic. We have a person who was fired because this thing was not up to the safety standards that it should have been up to. That was flagged twice for quality control and safety in 2018. Nobody knows if that was repaired. Nobody knows what these things were done. And here you can see the picture. You see the carbon fibers, blue section. You see the titanium ring. It's a little upsetting. There's a letter from the Maritime Technology Society saying, hey, you guys keep saying that this thing is up to snuff, but doesn't appear to be to us, and this is how they sit in there. And as you can see, it's all Indian style sitting, legs crossed, not a lot of room there. And keep in mind that the further you go down, you're going to have condensate on those walls. It's going to be cold. This is just not something that I could do, even if I really, really, really wanted to. But now we're learning that the founder of OceanGate had made a comment to the fact that all these issues with the design, he didn't want to hire for his company 50-year-old white guys because, quote, they're not inspirational, unquote. He wanted younger people, inexperienced people, because they would inspire other people. I'm not even sure where to start with that. I'm a United States Navy submariner, and I'm not even the smartest one. And I'm smart enough to know that that's nuts. That may be one of the dumbest things said since someone said the Titanic is unsinkable. Yeah, the guy that built it maybe didn't say that, but some people did. Only God himself could sink this ship. Here we are finding new ways to make the same old mistakes, saying things that I don't want experienced people because they're not inspirational. Maybe not, but one thing about submariners is we know how to do this, and we know what's safe and what isn't safe, and we can take a look at something and go, no, where's your redundancy? Where's your atmosphere systems? There are so many questions now. There's so many debates. There's so many lawsuits that are going to be filed. So many questions that are going to be asked. But at the end of the day, I want you to remember this. I've said it more times than I can possibly remember. And I will keep on saying it. That is very simply this. The ocean is always trying to kill you. I don't care where you go in the ocean. The ocean is always trying to kill you. If you give it any chance at all, it will. Carelessness is deadly, but even with proper preparation and planning, you're not guaranteed safety. There's a reason that we train and train and train and practice and study, and then we go train some more on submarines, because the ocean is always trying to kill you. As submariners, perhaps we understand that more than anyone else, that the ocean is always trying to kill you. The other side of the coin, of course, is that the ocean is very beautiful. It's very beguiling. From the dawn of time, men have heard her call, and they've gone to explore, and I respect that. I'm one of them. I would be fascinated by ocean exploration. The people of OceanGate are no different. They had a dream to explore and study the depths, and they found a way to make that happen. Here, even in the Puget Sound, they studied something of great interest to me with shark life here. That dream has now become a nightmare, but one that everybody knew was not just possible, but probable. Not because of carelessness or improper preparation, although that certainly is becoming part of the equation here, but simply because going to sea is always dangerous. We'll wait and we'll watch. Keep wondering about the men who are down there, because as submariners, we understand the fear and the joy of the depths. We may or may not ever know what happened. The sub may or may not ever be found. But I guarantee you this, as submariners, we feel that terror, and we have our own nightmares. We have difficulty sleeping in peace now. And we take offense at the idea that just because we're 50-year-old white guys, and we're not, I know plenty of submariners who are not 50-year-old white guys, we're not inspirational. I've got the names of people that I helped inspire to become submariners. And there were people who helped inspire me to do that. Not something that anybody can do. You have to be inspired to do it. But we will spend the next days watching as time runs out. Things don't happen the way that perhaps we want them to happen. We will watch and we will see what will happen. But we understand this. The ocean always trying to kill you. And if you give it any opportunity to do so, it will kill you. And it will do so without mercy. It will do so painfully. And it will do so without remorse. And at the end of the day, you'll be as dead as those people that went on the Titanic. But you also rest in the knowing that someday, sea will give up her dead.